Some of the world's most extraordinary tribes have been living in isolation for thousands of years, developing unique ways to survive and thrive. Their traditions are as old as the land they inhabit, yet they continue to challenge our understanding of human adaptability. From navigating dense rainforests to thriving in freezing Arctic conditions, these tribes have managed to live in some of the harshest environments on Earth. Join us as we dive into the fascinating stories of these tribes that seemingly break the conventional laws of physics, uncovering the ancient skills and wisdom that have allowed them to endure through centuries. The Hadza tribe. The Hadza people are one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer tribes in the world, offering us a rare glimpse into a lifestyle that predates agriculture and modern civilization. Found near Lake Eyasi in Tanzania, this small indigenous group has fascinated anthropologists, biologists, and curious minds alike for decades. The Hadza only number fewer than 1,500 individuals today. They are believed to be direct descendants of early humans who lived in the Rift Valley, one of the cradles of human evolution. It is believed that their lineage is ancient, possibly tracing back tens of thousands of years. Unlike many indigenous groups who have been displaced or assimilated over time, the Hadza have managed to preserve much of their traditional way of life. Their territory, though shrinking due to encroachment from agriculture and tourism, remains their home and lifeline. In the 20th century, Western explorers and anthropologists discovered the Hadza, and they quickly became subjects of fascination. Not because they lacked interaction with the outside world, they have had occasional contact with neighboring tribes and settlers, but because their way of life remained largely unchanged. They resisted attempts by missionaries and governments to settle them into modernized lifestyles, holding fast to their traditions. The Hadza are classic hunter-gatherers, living off the land in ways that modern societies might find unimaginable. Their diet is incredibly diverse, comprising game meat, wild fruits, tubers, and honey. Men are the hunters, often using handmade bows and arrows to bring down everything from birds to large game like antelope. Women, on the other hand, forage for fruits, tubers, and other plant-based foods. Honey is a shared delicacy, often harvested with the help of birds known as honey guides, which lead the Hadza to hidden hives. One of the most remarkable aspects of Hadza life is their social structure. There are no formal leaders, no chiefs, and no rigid hierarchies. Decisions are made collectively, and resources are shared equally within the group. Their homes are simple, temporary huts made from grass and branches, reflecting their nomadic lifestyle. This mobility ensures they never deplete the resources in any given area, allowing the environment to regenerate naturally. Their language, Hadzane, is another point of intrigue. It is a click language, meaning it incorporates distinctive clicking sounds that are rare among global languages. Despite being unrelated to other languages, it serves as a vital thread connecting their past to their present. The Hadza's diet and lifestyle have drawn attention from researchers interested in health and longevity. Remarkably, the Hadza suffer from very few of the chronic diseases that plague modern societies, such as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Their diet is rich in fiber and diverse in nutrients, and their constant physical activity keeps them fit. A fascinating area of study has been their gut microbiome. It has been found that the Hadza have one of the most diverse gut microbiomes in the world, thanks to their unprocessed diet and frequent consumption of high-fiber foods. This diversity is thought to contribute to their robust immune systems and overall health. Interestingly, their gut bacteria fluctuate with the seasons, adapting to their changing diet throughout the year. This adaptability is something modern diets have largely lost. While the Hadza have maintained their traditional way of life for centuries, they face increasing pressure from the modern world. Their ancestral lands are being encroached upon by farming communities, and some areas have been converted into game reserves for tourists. These changes threaten not just their physical space, but their entire way of life. On the flip side, the Hadza's unique culture has drawn the interest of conservationists and anthropologists who are advocating for their rights and helping to secure legal protections for their land. However, balancing their autonomy with outside support remains a delicate challenge. The Huaorani tribe. The Huaorani tribe, also known as the Waorani or Waodani, are an indigenous group living deep within the Amazon rainforest of Ecuador. With a population of about 4,000, they inhabit a region rich in biodiversity, stretching across rivers, dense forests, and isolated clearings. The Huarani have lived in the Amazon for hundreds, if not thousands of years. For most of their history, they were isolated from the outside world, living a nomadic lifestyle and fiercely defending their territory from intruders. Their name, Huarani, translates roughly to the people, a term that underscores their sense of identity and community. First contact with the Huarani by outsiders occurred in the 1950s, and it was anything but peaceful. Missionaries attempting to reach them were met with resistance, as the Huarani defended their land with long, expertly crafted spears. Over time, some groups within the tribe began to engage with the outside world, but others, such as the Taromenan and Tagaeri subgroups, remain uncontacted to this day. The tribe's relationship with the outside world has been shaped by both curiosity and conflict. Encroachment by oil companies and settlers has significantly impacted their territory, leading to both legal battles and cultural shifts. Despite these challenges, the Huarani continue to maintain many of their traditional practices and beliefs. The Huarani have a unique culture and way of life. They are semi-nomadic, relying on hunting, gathering, and small-scale agriculture for survival. Their knowledge of the rainforest is unparalleled. They can navigate its dense foliage with ease, identify medicinal plants, and hunt with remarkable precision. Blowguns and spears are their primary hunting tools, and they are skilled at tracking animals like monkeys, birds, and peccaries. Their diet is highly diverse, including meat, fish, fruits, nuts, and tubers. Sharing is a fundamental part of their culture. Food is distributed among families, ensuring that everyone is cared for. Huarani homes are built from natural materials found in the forest. These structures, called bohios, are simple and open, providing shelter while blending seamlessly into their environment. Community and family life are central to their existence, with extended families often living together and working collectively to meet their needs. For the Huarani, the rainforest is not just a place to live, it is a sacred entity, infused with spiritual meaning. They believe that all living things, from trees to animals, have spirits. This worldview fosters a deep respect for the environment and a careful balance in how resources are used. Two animals hold special significance for the Huarani: the jaguar and the anaconda. The jaguar, known as Otorongo, is seen as a symbol of strength, courage, and the supernatural. In their myths and stories, jaguars often serve as powerful guides or protectors, embodying the spirit of the jungle itself. Warriors among the Huarani sometimes draw inspiration from the jaguar, emulating its stealth and strength during hunts or conflicts. The anaconda, or Yakumama, mother of the water, is equally revered. It is considered a guardian of the waterways and a creature of profound wisdom. For the Huarani, the anaconda represents the interconnectedness of all life. Their shamans often speak of visions involving anacondas, interpreting them as messages or omens from the spirit world. One of the Huarani's most remarkable traits is their adaptability. Despite their limited exposure to modern technology, they have successfully engaged with global legal systems and media to defend their land. At the same time, they remain deeply rooted in their traditions, showing that it is possible to resist complete assimilation into modern society. Their intimate knowledge of the rainforest is another striking feature. The Huarani can identify plants and animals with a precision that often astonishes scientists. This knowledge, passed down orally through generations, is invaluable not only to their survival, but also to broader conservation efforts. The cannibals. The tribes of Papua New Guinea have long been a source of fascination, mystery, and sometimes fear, particularly those with histories of cannibalism. Located in the remote jungles of the island, Papua New Guinea is home to over 800 languages and an astonishing variety of cultures. Among these are tribes that practiced ritualistic cannibalism, a behavior rooted in spiritual beliefs, survival tactics, and complex cultural traditions. Though the practice has largely disappeared today, the stories of these tribes reveal much about human history and the diversity of cultural expressions. One of the most well-documented cases of cannibalistic practices in Papua New Guinea involved the Fore people, discovered by Australian patrols in the 1930s. The Fore lived in the Eastern Highlands and practiced ritualistic endocannibalism as part of their funerary customs. These initial encounters revealed the tribe's history of ritualistic cannibalism, which became one of the defining aspects of their identity in the eyes of the outside world. However, the Fore had been practicing cannibalism for centuries, possibly as a form of respect for the dead or as a means of absorbing the strength and wisdom of deceased relatives. Their cannibalism was ritualistic, tied to ceremonies and spiritual beliefs, rather than the simple consumption of flesh for sustenance. This practice became globally infamous when it was discovered that a prion disease, later identified as kuru, spread among the Fore population through the consumption of human brain tissue. The discovery of kuru in the 1950s shocked the world. The disease, which caused symptoms such as tremors, loss of coordination, and eventually death, was found to be linked directly to the tribe's practice of eating the brains of deceased family members. Kuru is caused by prions, misfolded proteins that induce other proteins to misfold, leading to irreversible damage to the brain. The Fore's practice of consuming the brains of their dead relatives inadvertently spread the disease through the community. Interestingly, it was mostly women and children who were affected by kuru, as they were the primary participants in the ritual of cannibalism, consuming the brain and other internal organs. Men, who typically ate the muscles of the deceased, were less likely to contract the disease. The disease was particularly devastating to the Fore, leading to widespread illness and death, with entire families and villages being wiped out by the epidemic in the late 1950s and early 1960s. The link between kuru and cannibalism was established by Dr. D. Carlton Gajdusek, a researcher who later won a Nobel Prize in 1976 for his work on prion diseases. Through his research, it was confirmed that kuru was a neurodegenerative disease spread by consuming human tissue. Cannibalism was not merely about consumption for survival, it was deeply tied to the tribe's worldview. Many Papua New Guinean tribes view life, death, and the spirit as interconnected, with rituals serving as a way to navigate these transitions. Cannibalistic practices often involved elaborate ceremonies, chants, and offerings to the spirits. Some tribes practiced it as part of warfare. The Korowai people, for example, were reported to engage in cannibalism as a form of justice. They believed in witches called kakua, who disguised themselves as humans to harm others. If someone was accused of being a kakua, they were killed and eaten to rid the community of their evil. While the Korowai are sometimes sensationalized in the media as the last remaining cannibal tribe, recent accounts suggest that cannibalism has mostly ceased, influenced by contact with modern society and changing cultural norms. Today, most of Papua New Guinea's tribes no longer practice cannibalism, though the stigma and fascination remain. Many tribes have adopted Christianity or other religions, which often view cannibalism as sinful. The Chukchi tribe. The Chukchi people are an indigenous group living in the far northeastern region of Siberia, specifically in Russia's Chukchi Autonomous Okrug. These hardy people have adapted to one of the harshest environments on Earth, where the climate can be brutally cold, with long winters and short summers. The history of the Chukchi dates back thousands of years, with some estimates suggesting their ancestors have lived in the Arctic region for over 5,000 years. The Chukchi are part of the larger Paleo-Siberian group, and their language belongs to the Chukchi-Kamchatkan language family. Over centuries, they developed a way of life that was intricately tied to the land, relying on reindeer herding and marine resources for survival. The first documented encounter between the Chukchi and outsiders occurred during the 17th century when Russian explorers began moving eastward across Siberia. These early explorers were struck by the Chukchi's resilience and resourcefulness. However, the relationship between the Chukchi and the Russians was often hostile. The Chukchi fiercely resisted Russian expansion and attempts at colonization. Their warrior culture, especially the reputation of their skilled fighters, earned them respect and fear from foreign invaders. These people were not easily subdued, and they continued to maintain their independence well into the 19th century, even after Russia established settlements in the region. It wasn't until the late 19th and early 20th centuries that the Chukchi were more systematically incorporated into the Russian Empire, but their resistance to outside influence and efforts to preserve their traditions continued. The Chukchi traditionally lived in small nomadic communities, following the herds of reindeer that were central to their culture. Reindeer herding is not only a livelihood, but also a cultural cornerstone for the Chukchi. They rely on reindeer for meat, milk, hides, and even bones for tools. In the winter months, the Chukchi would set up portable homes called chum, which are tent-like structures made from reindeer skins and wooden poles. These homes were easily assembled and disassembled, allowing the Chukchi to move with the herds. While reindeer herding is one of the most iconic aspects of Chukchi culture, the tribe is also known for its maritime activities. They have a rich tradition of hunting sea mammals such as seals, walruses, and whales. The Chukchi are skilled at building kayaks, called umik, which they use for hunting on the icy waters of the Arctic Ocean. They also fish using sophisticated methods, such as ice fishing, and hunt birds and fish that inhabit the region's rivers and lakes. A very fascinating aspect of Chukchi culture is their ability to thrive in one of the harshest climates on Earth. The Chukchi have developed an intimate understanding of their environment, which is essential to their survival. They know how to read the landscape, predict the weather, and track animals. Their survival skills are passed down through generations, ensuring that the tribe remains connected to its roots despite the encroachment of modernity. The Chukchi are well adapted to their cold environment. Their clothing is traditionally made from reindeer fur, which provides excellent insulation against the frigid temperatures. In addition to their fur garments, the Chukchi also make boots from reindeer hides, designed to keep them warm and dry during their long travels across the snowy tundra. Another interesting cultural aspect is their relationship with the natural world. The Chukchi believe in animism, which means they view animals, plants, and even natural forces as having spirits. This worldview is deeply embedded in their hunting practices, where rituals and respect for the animals they hunt are crucial. The Maasai tribe. The Maasai tribe is one of the most recognizable and culturally rich communities in East Africa, known for their distinct way of life, vibrant clothing, and warrior traditions. Primarily residing in southern Kenya and northern Tanzania, the Maasai people have a history and culture that have fascinated the world for centuries. The Maasai are a Nilotic ethnic group, believed to have migrated from the Nile Valley region in what is now South Sudan and Ethiopia to the East African Rift Valley around the 15th century. Their ancestors settled in the areas that are now parts of Kenya and Tanzania, where they developed their distinctive pastoralist culture. Over time, the Maasai expanded their territory and became known as a formidable and proud warrior community. These people were introduced to the outside world during the late 19th century, when European explorers and missionaries began venturing into East Africa. They were immediately struck by the Maasai's resilience and their warrior lifestyle. The Maasai were known to fiercely defend their land and way of life, even as colonial powers sought to impose control over the region. This resistance to foreign domination helped the Maasai maintain a strong sense of independence. The Maasai's first significant interaction with colonial powers was during British rule in Kenya and Tanzania in the early 20th century. The British saw the Maasai as a threat to their colonial ambitions due to their warrior culture and their influence in the region. As a result, the British imposed land restrictions, and many Maasai were displaced from their ancestral lands. Despite these hardships, the Maasai remained resilient and adapted to the changes imposed by colonialism while preserving much of their culture. At the heart of Maasai culture is their deep connection to cattle. Cattle are more than just livestock for the Maasai. They represent wealth and social status and are central to many of their rituals. A Maasai man's wealth is often measured by the number of cattle he owns, and cattle are used in many aspects of daily life, from food, milk and meat, to clothing, leather hides, and ceremonies. The Maasai practice a semi-nomadic lifestyle, herding cattle and moving between grazing lands to ensure that their herds have access to water and food. They traditionally live in small villages called enkang, made up of circular houses known as enkaji, which are built by women using mud, sticks, grass, and cow dung. These homes are designed to be easily disassembled and moved as the Maasai migrate in search of better grazing lands for their cattle. Family and social structure are very important to the Maasai. The community is organized into clans, and marriage is an essential part of Maasai society. The Maasai have specific practices and customs surrounding marriage, including the exchange of cattle as part of a dowry. It is common for Maasai men to marry multiple wives, with the number of wives often depending on the man's wealth and cattle. One of the most striking aspects of Maasai culture is their distinctive clothing. The Maasai are known for wearing brightly colored shuka, usually in shades of red, blue, and checkered patterns, which symbolize their connection to their heritage and their natural environment. The red color is particularly important in Maasai culture, as it is believed to represent strength, courage, and the blood of the cattle that are so vital to their survival. The Maasai have an important ceremony called the Enkai. It's a religious ritual dedicated to their creator god. The Maasai believe that Enkai created the earth, cattle, and all living beings, and they regularly perform ceremonies to honor him. These ceremonies can range from prayers for a successful harvest or protection from diseases to more significant rites of passage for young warriors or new marriages. The Baka. The Baka, also known as the Pygmies, are an indigenous people who have lived for thousands of years in the dense rainforests of Central Africa. These small-statured communities, known for their unique way of life, have been both celebrated for their deep knowledge of the forest and marginalized by the wider societies around them. The Baka belong to several ethnic groups that share a common ancestral heritage, primarily living in the rainforests of the Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and other parts of Central Africa. Their origins are difficult to trace precisely, but it is believed that the ancestors of the Baka have inhabited the African rainforest for tens of thousands of years. This long history has shaped their unique adaptations and intimate relationship with the environment, which has sustained them for generations. The first encounters between the Baka and outside explorers occurred during the 19th century. Western explorers, who were looking to map the vast and largely uncharted Congo basin, first encountered these small communities. At the time, the Baka were often regarded as a mysterious and primitive group due to their isolation from other civilizations. The term pygmy itself was coined by outsiders, derived from the ancient Greek word pygmaios, meaning dwarfish, due to the shorter stature of these people compared to other African groups. Over time, this term became commonly used, although it is now considered problematic and often inaccurate, as Baka are not a single homogeneous group, but rather a collection of various tribes with distinct languages and customs. The Baka are traditionally hunter-gatherers, relying on the resources of the dense forests for their survival. Their knowledge of the forest is unrivaled, and they are often referred to as the guardians of the forest due to their expertise in navigating and surviving in one of the world's most challenging environments. They hunt small game, such as antelope and monkeys, and gather wild fruits, plants, and roots. They also fish using traps and nets in rivers and streams that flow through the rainforest. Hunting is a communal activity among the Baka, and men typically use spears, bows, and arrows to hunt game. They also use traditional techniques, such as the blowing of darts through blowpipes, which are coated with a potent toxin made from plants. Women and children are responsible for gathering wild foods, while both men and women participate in food preparation. The Baka have developed a sustainable lifestyle, carefully harvesting what they need from the forest without depleting its resources. Their respect for the environment is reflected in their practices, ensuring that the land continues to provide for future generations. The Baka live in small mobile groups, often referred to as bands, which can range from a few families to a couple of dozen individuals. These bands typically build temporary shelters from branches, leaves, and other natural materials found in the forest. The structure of these homes is simple, designed to be easily constructed and dismantled as the band moves in search of new resources. A distinctive characteristic of the Baka is their shorter stature, which is a result of genetic adaptation to the rainforest environment. Anthropologists believe that this shorter height may have been an evolutionary response to the dense forest conditions, where a smaller body would have been more efficient in navigating the dense undergrowth. This physical trait, however, does not define the Baka, who are diverse in appearance and culture across the different groups. And there you have it, the incredible story of tribes that defy all physical expectations. The remarkable adaptability of these tribes leaves us with one final question. What other tribes around the world break the physical and cultural norms we take for granted? If you enjoyed learning about this amazing tribe, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated with more incredible tribes from around the world.